Welcome to the Kagan Implementation Network webinar series. In today's episode, we're going to hear from Evan Markowitz and Danielle Dudley, Principal and Assistant Principal of Athenian Academy of Technology and the Arts. This team has led implementation of Kagan Cooperative Learning for nearly a decade. As we listen to their story today, I invite you to pay special attention to items they have done to work towards building internal capacity, both of themselves and of their team. Great. Welcome, everybody. Great to have you this morning. Appreciate you giving up some time to join us for this webinar. This is part of a webinar series where we just hope to share success stories and successful practices across our network. And what the Kagan Implementation Network hopes to do is create those connections between leaders to share these stories so that we can be more successful everywhere that we are trying to help our students and our teachers. So a little overview for you. I'm going to take just a minute and explain what the Kagan Implementation Network is, so we have a common definition. Going to have some featured speakers today. We're super excited to have Principal Evan Markowitz and Assistant Principal Danielle Dudley with us. They're going to share their journey with Kagan that's still ongoing. They've been doing work for multiple years now, and they're continuing to work in their school, and they're seeing a ton of boosts in achievement and positive outcomes for students. Super excited to have them. There will be an opportunity for Q&A. And then our closing. We've got a few things housekeeping-wise in the closing part. So let's talk about the network. Very briefly, what the network hopes to do is create a community, a connection of school and district leaders, principals, assistant principals, directors of curriculum and instruction, assistant superintendents, superintendents, who are out there actually doing the work of implementation. So in the workshops, we teach the research-based strategy of cooperative learning, Kagan cooperative learning, and the leaders out in the field, the practitioners, are actually installing it. And all of these leaders are experiencing problems of practice, many of which are being successful. And so what we hope to do in this community is to be able to establish connections so those leaders can succeed more often and more quickly, actually. So we hope to do this by highlighting these successful implementation practices through success stories and by tying in things from our instructional leadership courses. Two formats for the network. Webinar is one of them, like you're in today. These are going to be recorded and shared out. And then another format that we are going to work on is the virtual convenings. And these will be more interactive, centered on a problem of practice. The webinar today, we're going to highlight a success story, share some consultation, and record this and store this somewhere on our website. It says KSS, but I don't think that that's finalized. We will share that out with everyone. So here's our protocol for today. Evan and Danielle are going to share for about 10 minutes. I'll ask some questions to guide them along in sharing their story. While they're sharing, our invitation to you is to drop questions into the chat. This will be our parking lot for the webinar. And after the 10 minutes is up, we'll revisit the chat and highlight those questions, as many as we can in our allotted time today. Our invitation for those questions, think about the things that resonate for you, what's striking you as interesting or you'd like to learn more about. Also, what questions might you have about what Evan and Danielle share that's connecting back to your practice in your school or district? That would be my nudge for you, my invitation in your questions. All right, so here we go, right into it. Evan and Danielle are our featured speakers today. A little backstory about them, 9 years that they've been working towards Kagan cooperative learning at Athenian. And what we're trying to highlight through this success story and Evan and Danielle is the theme of building internal capacity. So two categories for that: building their own capacity as leaders around Kagan cooperative learning and that implementation, and then also building their teams, the teachers and teacher leaders at their school. In this journey, they began 15-16, the school had a D rating. This was before Kagan implementation began. And very quickly, B rating was earned through Evan and Danielle's leadership and using Kagan cooperative learning in all of their classrooms. And then after that third year, they got over the hump and earned an A rating in the 18-19 school year. So they're continuing this success these many years later. And so with no further ado, let's bring them in. I'm going to stop sharing these slides and we can hear straight from Evan and Danielle. Good morning, Evan and Danielle.
Good morning. So I'm just going to give you a little background of kind of where we started. So Evan and I are about to go into our 10th year as administration. And when we took over, as you said, we were definitely in a turnaround position. The school was a D and it was in a rough spot. Our students were really struggling. Our team was really struggling. So we brought in the first 2 days of cooperative learning, and that really sparked something inside of us. We were like, this is great. We love this. But, we're a turnaround school. So let's get our feet wet in it and start our first year. And at the end of that year, we earned a B, and we were very excited. And we had seen what cooperative learning was doing for us, but we knew we needed more. So that summer, Evan and I took a few team members and we attended the Instructional Leadership Academy. And for us, that is when everything changed. We as leaders realized we needed to do more to really push our team and our school to be great. And so during that time, we really sat down and went through creating an implementation plan. And, Kagan was amazing. Everyone who we've worked with has really supported us along the way in creating a plan that's going to work for our school and where we're at. And each year revisiting with us how to continue to grow that. So, going to the Instructional Leadership Academy was inspirational for us. And we came back year 2 ready. We were ready. We were so inspired. We were so excited. And so that year we did the last 3 days of the 5-day CL cooperative learning journey. And our school earned a B again. We were so excited. Our team was thriving and enthusiastic. So after earning our second B, we said, okay, what's next? And so for that next summer at the Summer Academy, we did coaching. That was very important to us. So again, Evan and I and several team members went to Kagan Coaching. And that third year is really when things started to change for us. That third year is when we saw a huge shift at our school. So Evan and I did coaching in the classrooms every single month. So we went in, we supported our team with Kagan Coaching. We brought in Kagan coaches. That was huge for us because not only was our team getting coached by Kagan coaches, we were shadowing them and we were learning every time we were in a classroom with them. They were walking us through why they were coaching on things. And it was such a learning moment for both of us as admin. And then another big thing we did was consistently SAMS clubs. Every single month we did a SAM club. Every training we did had cooperative learning in it because we wanted our team to see that we were there to support them with cooperative learning. And at the end of that third year, after implementing all of those things, is when we finally earned our first A. It was a huge success for our school, obviously going from a D to an A in 3 years, and we have been an A ever since. So that's kind of the background of our beginning of our cooperative learning journey.
Thank you so much for sharing that background. I think that's really helpful context to share. On the top of my mind right now is the 2 categories of internal capacity, hearing about Danielle, you and Evan's building your own capacity, going to the Instructional Leadership Academy and going to the Kagan Coaching Workshop. Could we start with the Instructional Leadership Academy? I'd love to learn a little bit more. I heard you say that your eyes were open to all the things that you could be doing. Would you mind sharing a few of those things that your eyes were open to that you could be doing as leaders?
Yes, I think during the Instructional Leadership Academy, one of the big focuses was, instructional practices over programs. And so I think, we talked about building that internal capacity in the school. I know one of the big things that's stressed is, it's not the Leadership Academy, it's the Instructional Leadership Academy. And a lot of times, I think leaders delegate that important piece. There's a lot we have to do in our buildings, but the most important, most critical part for student achievement is that instructional piece. And so, I think like Danielle said, that next year, we went to the coaching training. We were in classrooms every month supporting our teachers with coaching. We were shadowing the Kagan coaches when they would come in so we could continue to grow and, develop our own, um, basically knowing how to coach and what to look for. So I think that was a really big critical piece for us. I think it's one of the biggest difference we found in that third year was that coaching piece.
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah, I think also too, like Danielle said, after the Instructional Leadership Academy, we were able to develop our own implementation plan too. So, one of the big pieces was definitely finishing the 5 days of CL. The coaching at that point, building that internal capacity also with our coaches. So we brought some teachers. We also brought some more teachers. So at this point, we have 5 teacher coaches that also support all of our teachers as well. And then definitely the cooperative meetings and the SAM clubs that we do, our structure a month clubs. And so that's something, at the beginning of the year, we do our planning week. We're doing trainings. We go through an ethics training. There's structures that are embedded all throughout that training. So our teachers are getting to see us modeling what those structures look like with content. We're using structures for relationship building, through class building and team building. So I think that piece is in there too. And so it's just reinforcing all of those elements.
I think with the Instructional Leadership Academy, it helped us feel supported in what we needed to do as leaders to move forward. I felt like I walked away from that 5 days, and Evan and I went every single day after training. We went back and talked about what we learned that day and how we could move forward with what we learned that day. And I just felt so supported, and I know we felt so supported to move forward as leaders with implementation of a program.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Lots of great content in y'all's answer just now about what you did to build your own internal capacity. And Evan, I heard you mention a few things that I'm not sure everyone in the webinar is going to know about. One is the co-op meetings, and the other is Sam's clubs. Would you mind just briefly explaining what y'all did with both of those workshops and how they impacted your leadership?
Sure. So, for the SAM club, the structure a month club, basically you get during that workshop, you learn how to create an agenda to basically break down a structure. So, I'll give you a really good example. When we were in classrooms coaching 1 month, one of the tips that we were constantly giving is we noticed that find someone who was falling apart. There was a step that was getting reversed. A asks a question, B responds, and what our teachers were doing is they were having the student B record that answer instead of A, and then B initialing that it was correct. And so that month, we were just correcting it in the moment. Next month, several other teachers are doing find someone who were noticing that same mistake. And so we got together like, hey, this is a school-wide issue. So the next month, we made that our structure of the month. And so our teachers were able to experience that with relationship building content. And so they got to experience find someone who with that. We were able to model those steps, to reinforce the steps. And then they also got to experience find someone who with academic content. And so, it was just a really good way for us to fix that school wide and have that chance to model it and for the teachers to experience it.
And I think when you're new to cooperative learning, I think structures of the month are an amazing opportunity to introduce your team to new structures, because we touch on so many structures in different capacities throughout trainings, but many team members don't. They might go to one training and they learn that one structure that everyone else on the team didn't get to learn because they didn't go to that training over summer academy. So it gives us an opportunity to constantly bring in new structures for them to experience and try. And like Evan said, if we do notice there's an error or something we need to correct school wide, then we can basically reteach that structure. And it really gives them that support. And during that time, we talk about the PIES analysis of the structure and why we don't want to compromise on any parts of it. So I think it's just a good monthly refresher.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So we have about 2 minutes left in this portion of the webinar. What I'd love to hear more about is how you both built internal capacity of your teams. So we talked about your internal capacity as leaders. What about the capacity of your teams?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things is, so all of our teachers, we bring them on. They, the very first year, new hires know they need to go through the 5-day CL. Year 2, they go through Brain Friendly. And then after that, we pretty much will recommend workshops to them, or they can select workshops that they are interested in. Perhaps they're interested in literacy for little ones. So they get to pick whatever workshop that they are, most interested in. We also will make recommendations as we
Mhm.
see teachers growing, like, hey, now's a good time for you to go into Kagan coaching. And so, we had two of our teachers who aren't necessarily coaches right now, but they went through the Kagan coaching training last year. We have another two teachers we identified to go, we recommended, hey, why don't you go ahead and go to the Kagan coaching this year? And I think a big piece with that is even though they're not necessarily coaching right now, getting to go through that, getting to see those videos, getting to do the pies analysis, breaking down the steps, I think is really good for their growth. Something our teachers had recommended is new hires we bring on and we let them shadow us while we're coaching in the classroom so they get to see structures being utilized in the different classrooms. And something our team had expressed to us is like, hey, we want more opportunities to do that. Even our veteran teachers that have been with us now, they're going into their 10th year with us. They're like, we want to do that. And so something we did for next year is we actually created a schedule for all of our teachers where we're going to take two teachers with us every month. And basically they'll get to spend 2 days with us in classrooms, watching us coach, getting to see teachers using structures in the lessons. So I think that's been a big piece
Mhm.
too. That's something our team is very excited about. We told them last year we were going to do that at the end of the year. And so they're excited about that for this year. Anything else you want to add on that?
No, I think just with our team, it's providing that continuous support. And like everyone was saying, when we bring on a new team member, we schedule time. I mean, they get to go see 2 to 3 different classrooms for full days, just so they can see what does this really look like when I'm implementing cooperative learning all day, every day. Because you can go through a training, but it's very different to see it in a classroom when it's being woven in and out of lessons. So I think those are just really good jumping off points for anyone new coming onto a team with cooperative learning.
I think that's really helpful to understand, and I really appreciate taking teachers with you on the coaching visits so they can get this additional lens. I think sometimes when they're in their own classroom all the time, those four walls, it's their world. And if we can get them out, they get exposed to different ideas. So that's great. Excellent. So we're going to transition to the Q&A portion. Folks have been dropping questions in the chat, and I'm going to ask Christy to highlight some of those. I'll set the timer again. We'll go for about 6 or 7 minutes and get to as many questions as we can.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Evan and Danielle. Very excited for your journey, and we have several questions in the parking lot. One of them is going to start with, many schools can't afford to bring in coaches. How have you found the funds? Do you have any suggestions?
So we're a Title I school, so that's something that definitely helped us as we had those funds. We also have Title II funds, so that's something we do allocate towards that, or the federal Title II funds. Other than that, I will say, even our general fund, we allocate, it's just something it's our number one priority is our
Mhm.
initiative. And so it's something we've set aside a lot of funds. I mean, we even set aside $100 for every teacher at our school. So during the summer, basically they make a wish list and we order $100 worth of Kagan resources for every teacher at our school. So it's just something we've made a priority. Setting aside fundraising funds towards this initiative.
I think also schools often bring in a lot of extra programs, a lot of unneeded resources. And I feel like when you have cooperative learning in place, a lot of those things aren't needed. So we take our budget and focus so much on cooperative learning and making sure we're setting aside money for that, but we're not buying additional resources that we know aren't going to affect our students.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's something we've talked a lot with our teachers about. Like we have one supplemental program we use outside of our curriculum, that's IXL, but we don't use iReady. We don't use a lot of these other assessment programs. We basically use our curriculum, and ultimately we don't want our kids on computers. We are technology and the arts, yes. And we are a one-to-one school. However, we still like a lot of pencil and paper. We still use a lot of our mini whiteboards like you will do during the Kagan workshops. And ultimately, our teachers are the professionals.
Mhm.
They are the experts in their content area. We want, it's more the direct instruction approach using cooperative learning embedded throughout the lessons. And that's just our focus. That's where we allocate our funds towards, is building that internal capacity with our teachers and that professional development.
Ready for another question?
Sure.
Right.
Thank you. This question comes to us all the way from across the pond in the United Kingdom. Do you have a development plan, document, charting the implementation pieces you have done so far, and perhaps the order you did them? Are there any pieces that you're working on now? I think they want to asking for you to share your resources or your long-term plan.
We would be happy to share our resources. We do have an extensive amount of them, I would say, at this point. We kind of started a long time ago back with the journey is what did we want each grade level to be able to accomplish? So by the end of kindergarten, kids should know these structures. By the end of first grade, they should know these structures so that we were constantly building. So that's kind of where we started. And then we started looking at the teacher side of it. If I'm a year one teacher, what can I be proficient in at the end of year one with cooperative learning? And now 5 years down the road, what should I be proficient in? And we've just continued to build upon that. We also keep record of our SAMS clubs, and we make a note of things that we know we need to go back and check on. Also, during our coaching, we make notes of what we coach all of our team on so that we can go back and reflect on that. We want to make sure that if we're coaching them on something, they are growing in those areas, because if not, then we know they need more support. But
Thank
yes,
you.
I'm glad you share everything.
I'm glad you mentioned coaching. There is a parking lot question asking about how do you provide release time during the coaching day so that other teachers can shadow or follow or support?
That is part of our budget. We do schedule budget for subs, knowing that we do coaching and that we're going to have shadowing. And so since we create that ahead of time, so I will say we created the schedule for next school year back in about March. So because we plan so far in advance, we're able to schedule that with subs, and we're able to budget for it for our budget, because we know that that's already time that we're going to be utilizing subs for the year.
Awesome. And with everything that you have experienced and things that change and grow within our curriculum and our company, are your teachers now using the Everyone Answers tool? And if so, how's it going for you?
All right. Yes, so we are. Our teachers have been using that. And at the beginning of the year, we actually did, during planning week, we did a workshop internally on that Danielle and I did with the team, utilizing some of those resources. We actually purchased the Everyone Answers and the updated coaching posters too for our teams. That was something they got this year. But yeah, it's been going very well. That's something too we've been doing with coaching is our 5 internal coaches and then 2 of the teachers that went to coaching last summer. We're actually doing extended coaching periods with them now. So we're in their classrooms for about a 45-minute lesson and supporting them throughout that with coaching. And so that's something we've been able to see a lot more of the Everyone Answers structures being utilized during that lesson. If you're in a reading block, there's a whole lot of opportunities for processing information and for checking for understanding with those structures.
Do you have a set expectation for how many structures are required to be in a lesson, or is it just Everyone Answers tool as many as possible?
So the very, or going back early on, because this is something that's changed over the years. So very early on, the expectation was, at least one structure per lesson. Obviously,
Planned, like
yes,
pre-planned structure.
pre-planned. At this point, it definitely varies by, if it's a first year teacher with us or a teacher that's been with us many years. So, one of our 5th grade teachers, for example, who is just phenomenal, she will use a structure probably once every 5 to 7 minutes. Obviously with Everyone Answers, it's probably even a little bit more frequently than that. And then obviously sometimes you have structures like a quiz trade. It's going to take a little bit longer, and then it might be a little bit of a break before you have another structure. So I think it definitely depends, about teacher, but I would say, probably on average, it's about once every 10 minutes or so.
But even to this day, when our teachers are creating their lesson plans, because they plan as a team, they are still required to document one structure that they as a team has thought through that is going to work during that block to help support our incoming younger teachers that are new to cooperative learning.
Thank you, Christy, for reading those questions, and Evan and Danielle answering them. I want to honor everyone's time. We agreed to a 30-minute webinar, and we're getting really close to that time. So thank you so much. Can we just get a round of applause? Wonderful job. Thank you for the transparency, for opening up to us. So much deep gratitude to you two. So I want to highlight some key takeaways from this time with Evan and Danielle. One is the Instructional Leadership Academy and the power to build capacity of school leadership and district leadership teams. Evan and Danielle highlighted some things that they did as school leaders. We talked about this in our prep meeting. We didn't quite have enough time to cover every single thing, but Evan and Danielle learned the power of co-attending workshops with their teachers, the CL workshops at their sites, and then also doing the coaching. A second key piece is modeling the structures with their staff and students. They were they highlighted this importance through coaching visits, through bringing teachers in the coaching visits to watch what other teachers were doing. And the coaching piece was one thing that they highlighted really got over the hump in that third year. Two pieces to the Kagan coaches. They did use our coaches, the Kagan coaches, but they also built their own, including themselves. So really powerful story here. I think there's a lot that other leaders could take away. One more that I would add to this is the time. Many people ask us, how could we do this faster? To do this well, I think Evan and Danielle have proven this does take time. You will see results after a few years, but this is a long journey that requires focus and great leadership. And I think we heard from two really great leaders today. Evan and Danielle have been gracious enough to offer to share their email addresses. There was an ask for some resources, so if you'd like to just take a picture with your cell phone of this slide, it'll also be recorded and shared out later. But they have been gracious enough to offer to connect with you if you would find that helpful. So what's next for the Kagan Implementation Network? Next on the horizon, more webinars like this highlighting success stories, but we also want to use some virtual convenings, offer more of a space for connection. And so in the virtual convenings, we'll be highlighting engagement between leaders and breakout rooms. We'll still use success stories, but we're also going to look for problems of practice. And in those problems of practice, we're going to work as a team, whoever attends live, to offer some cooperative solutions using Kagan cooperative learning to design and offer solutions to these leaders who are sharing their problem of practice. If you would like to be a featured speaker in a webinar or a problem of practice for our virtual convenings, please reach out to me directly and we can talk about what your availability is and line it up so we can make it happen. We hope this is a great networking opportunity for you to connect to other leaders who are doing the same thing, experiencing the same struggles and the same successes that you are. We have an ask here. If you've attended today and you're like, I know other people that need to be exposed to this type of content, our offering to you, you can scan this QR code and send the link to them. This would be the sign-up form for the Kagan Implementation Network. And so we're looking to build this. I think it's appropriate for anyone who is trying to lead Kagan implementation, starting from there's just an interest to do it, all the way to we've been doing it for 10 years and we're still learning. So feel free to share that link with anyone you think would be interested. If Evan and Danielle have mentioned something today that you would like to book with us through Kagan, you can scan this QR code. It'll send you to an inquiry form, and our partnership team will connect with you to meet your needs and to help support you as you continue your implementation journey. QR code overload right here at the end. This is the last one. This is an ask for some feedback from you. How did this webinar go? We want to continue to improve and meet your needs the best that we can in this offering. So I'll pause right here for you to scan that. And then I'm going to stop sharing so we can say goodbye to everyone. Hopefully you had a chance to scan the QR codes. If you didn't, the recording will still have them. So there'll be another opportunity for you to get those QR codes and links. And I think that's exactly 30 minutes.